and that this meeting is also being held in person and virtually through Zoom pursuant to Governor Baker's extending his COVID-19 rules to allow meetings to be conducted remotely as long as board members and board members and the public can participate also remotely. So this is the case today. We have
John's jumping on.
oh, John's jumping on too. Okay, so I'll call the meeting to order, and our members here tonight are Christopher Monroe next to me, Alice Lipdahl, I'm chair, Eric Dack, who's our alternate, and then remotely, John Demalia and Francois Steiger. So, did I say I call the meeting to order? I'm calling the meeting to order. It's 6:35. We begin with public comments. Public comments, though, are for matters that aren't actually an agenda item because we let public have input on agenda items. So if you're here on things that are not on the agenda, or if you have a question whether something's on the agenda, and that includes our remote people, just let me know. Did anybody indicate in the sign-in if they wanted to speak?
We have a few folks here from Streeter Road.
Okay.
And I think everyone else is here for an agenda item. I'm
Okay.
not seeing any participants.
Okay, we have another second public session at the end of the meeting, so if people come in late, you get a second chance. Minutes, we did get minutes, but they came in so late, I'm gonna bump them to our next meeting. And I wanna tell the public and our board members here, our next meeting, I understand we're gonna have a quorum if we can hold it on May 26th. So it's not next Thursday, and it's not the same right on top of town meeting. So that works for everybody, I believe, and then that would be our last meeting of the regular fiscal year. And then the next meeting following that is there's town meeting, there's elections, and then on June 16th, I think that's right, is that right? Is the organizational meeting for the new year.
I was just thinking for a moment, ARPA pushed to the 25th, I think. Not that it matters, ARPA is secondary to what we do, so.
These things become important. All right, so.
Yep.
So everybody agrees with that, and we can move on to action items. Our first action item is a public hearing on the open space and recreation chapter of the master plan. And we have presenting tonight, Jonathan Voss from MRPC, which is the Massachusetts Regional Planning Commission. And you open public hearings by reading the public notice, so Mallory's gonna do that.
In accordance with Mass General Law, Chapter 41, Section 81D, the Harvardstown Planning Board will hold a public hearing on May 12th, 2022 at 6:30 p.m. at Town Hall, Slade Building, 7 Main Street, Harvardstown, MA. This hearing will be to hear public comment pertaining to presentation by MRPC on the open space and recreation chapter of the draft master plan.
Okay, so thanks, I'll declare do you need a vote to open a meeting, or just declare it open? Just hearing, I think just open it, can I?
Yeah, you can even close one.
Okay, so open the hearing, and we'll begin with Jonathan. He's gonna present, this is not new to us on the board, but it's new to the public and our listening public. So he's gonna go a quick summary of the open space and recreation plan.
Alright, I will try to not take up too much time. The open space and recreation plan is one of the required elements for a master plan under Massachusetts statute. And it covers the open space and recreation assets and the analysis of needs for the community, in large part based on the open space and recreation plan, and just the current conditions of the town that we've examined in the course of creating this part of the master plan. I will just do a quick review of the master plan. If anybody wants a copy to look at, we have additional ones.
Or extras, if you want one, just put your hand up and we'll, okay?
Alright, so starting off with, for this final draft, we have the introduction, which covers the conservation land, recreation, agricultural land, according to Massachusetts Executive Office of Energy and Environmental Affairs. This covers all of the various uses of open space and what purpose it serves, from ecosystem services to include protection of water quality and groundwater recharge, habitat for wildlife, and to the removal of carbon dioxide from the atmosphere. Sustainably managed open space also serves as a resource for mitigating the impacts of climate change, offering locally grown food, fiber, and energy, Another purpose is to keep some of land available for future unanticipated uses. Open space also provides for recreation opportunities, which is also of interest to residents and visitors to the area. This plan serves the purpose of helping the town to identify critical resources in need of protection and direct growth to areas that are most appropriate for it. Therefore, the open space and recreation element examines the community's desire to ensure the balance between conservation of open space areas and the future and current development trends of the community. Hubbardston is a little unique in this case, where most of the land in town is already protected to one degree or another. So we try to make best use of the conservation and open space land as we can. Much of this chapter was obtained from the 2019 updated open space recreation plan. Some sections were summarized, and Hubbardston received input from residents of the town through a survey that asked questions regarding the importance of the preservation of open space and other community priorities. These have been incorporated and included in both the goals and actions. Utilizing information from the updated open space and recreation plan, this chapter includes a description of the community's needs for recreational opportunities, suggestions for conserving land for open space and recreation, and an outline of community goals and actions for conserving open space and preserving the town's rural landscape character. Much of this narrative includes a small inventory of conservation and recreation lands, and description of the community's environmental resources, a vision of the future with goals, objectives, and the 7-year action plan, which can be found in the Open Space and Recreation Plan. The Open Space and Recreation Plans are required to be updated every 7 years in order to qualify for grant programs for land acquisition or park improvements offered through the Division of Conservation Services. And then we move on to a brief section on the importance of open space, and this is more directly applicable to Hubbardston itself. So we begin to describe the direct needs of the community. And this talks about why protecting open space is important. Uncontrolled growth or taking land from things like pipelines can result in degradation of public drinking water sources, which is very important to Hubbardston, as well as other very important environmental and aesthetic features. Hubbardston helped provide drinking water for millions of people in the metropolitan Boston, Fitchburg, and Gardner area, and loss of this open space would result in the destruction of wildlife habitat, destruction of unique scenic and historic resources, and the destruction of recreational resources. Much of Hubbardston is actually owned by the Department of Conservation for the purpose of protecting that groundwater recharge and aquifer area. And then we continue to go through the introduction. We talked about Hubbardston's desire to maintain and diversify open space available to its citizenry. The acknowledgement of the value of existing open spaces in terms of aesthetics, health, welfare, the economy, and recreation. And then the need for Hubbardston to maintain lands in active use and to balance the local fiscal needs and tax-based concerns with conservation efforts. We also recognize to balance these desires, Hubbardston seeks to make better use of existing conservation land for limited recreational means and to expand opportunities available to residents and increase the number of avenues for economic growth. We also recognize some of the community accomplishments since we started the master plan process in 2018. The Department of Conservation Services approved of the Open Space and Recreation Plan. This finalized plan is based on the original Open Space and Recreation Plan from 2012, but was updated since then, and the community continues to meet or be active in and make great strides towards completing the goals and objectives related to open space and recreational resources. From there, we move on to the community setting, and this is a more in-depth profile of the community from an open space and recreational resources approach. We talked about the surroundings of Hubbardston and its location in central Massachusetts, 7 miles from Route 2, within an hour's commute of several important urban areas. It's on this entire area is slowly developing, and Hubbardston is one of a list of towns that is in some aspects struggling to maintain a rural character because of growth demand, which is spreading across the 495 corridor. And then from there we move on to the landscape character. Like most towns in rural Massachusetts, Hubbardston is primarily forested with numerous wetlands and fields. And because of its location within the Ware River watershed, there are large tracts of contiguous forests that are permanently protected to preserve the quality of water flowing into the Quabbin Reservoir. Large tracts of land in the eastern section of town are also conserved to protect the Fitchburg water supply. And then we move from there to water resources. We talk about Hubbardston's surface drainage network. And then we also talk about the protection of this also provides prime wildlife habitat, some recreational activities, water supply protection, historic preservation, and some other important aspects. And then we shed some light on why there's significant undevelopment in Hubbardston, and one of those reasons is because of its placement in the state's watershed system. The DCR Division of Water Supply Protection is responsible for stewardship of over 92,000 acres of critical lands. We have 45 square miles of reservoir surface within the watersheds of Quabbin, Wachusett, and Sudbury reservoirs, and the Ware River in order to protect the municipal drinking water for current supply and future generations. Most of Hubbardston is within the approximately 60,000 acre Ware River watershed. And the DCR owns approximately 23,000 acres of that total acreage. This land acquisition and water supply efforts have created some large, unfragmented, and undeveloped tracts of land in Hubbardston. There's also large acreage that is owned by the city of Fitchburg. We go on to describe more of the landscape, and then we talked that there are about 1,200 acres of wetlands within Hubbardston, and we talked about the drainage basin and the medium yield aquifer that it controls as a Zone 2 aquifer recharge protection area. And then we move along to vegetation. Hubbardston's landscape is dominated by secondary growth forests that have grown back since the time more than 100 years ago when there was substantial land clearing for timber and agriculture. Many of these forests are considered upland or sites that are dry and well drained. Red maple, hickory, and ash trees dominate the uplands, and there are large strands of hemlock and white pine in Hubbardston's upland forests. Hubbardston, due to a combination of large expanse of protection and undisturbed land and the diversity of habitats, is home to many common species of wildlife, and state biologists recognize this area for impressive biodiversity. And then from there we go on to public shade trees. Shade trees exist on all of Hubbardston's roadways due in large part to the Scenic Road Act of 1973. Many of the small back roads, branches of the large trees that span the road. All of the cemeteries in town are bordered by shade trees. In addition, there are two other main sites with public shade trees in Hubbardston, Curtis Recreation Field and Millennium Park. They play an important role in beautifying the recreation fields and providing much needed shade for spectators. Lilac bushes were planted in the very early years of the field along the boundary line, and 3 maple trees were planted around 2005 using funds from a state grant. Similar funds were used to plant trees at Millennium Park. It is likely that more trees will be deemed beneficial for both locations in future years should funding permit. And efforts have been underway to beautify the town center, and the town center committee was formed in part for some of those reasons. For scenic landscapes, this is an important role in Massachusetts in general. The Department of Environmental Management, which is now the Department of Conservation and Recreation, DCR, remarked that the extensive areas of pastoral scenery are becoming rare in Massachusetts due to development. These areas are valuable not only for scenic beauty, but for agricultural, economic, environmental, and historic qualities. Several trails in Hubbardston provide access to scenic landscapes in the hills and river valleys and are an attraction that draws people to the community. These trails are located on state, town, and local land trust properties, offering a variety of experiences in fields, forests, wetlands, and waterways that dominate much of Hubbardston's landscape. They play a significant role in the way residents characterize the town. Working to mitigate the adverse impact on open space and landscape development is a popular point of view in Hubbardston, and surveys collected from previous OSRP updates and most recently in June of 2021 have expressed a common theme focusing on the preservation and positive aspects of the quality of life of Hubbardston's rural character. Hubbardston contains within its borders several natural and managed features which are valuable from a scenic and economic standpoint. The southernmost section of the Mare Meadow Reservoir, the the Bear Falls Dam Reservation and many towns' ponds provide attractive waterfront views. There are several points of high elevation that offer outstanding looks towards Mount Wachusett, the region's most prominent landscape feature. The Mount Jefferson Conservation Area, which maintains open fields and offers dramatic views of Mount Wachusett, as well as attractive uses of church steeples among the rolling hills, is a valuable scenic asset to the town. Some of the more popular uses are Brigham Pond from Upper Brigham Road to Evergreen Road, the Mare Meadow Reservoir from New Westminster Road near the Westminster line, Mount Wachusett from the George Howard Road, and Comet Pond from the Old Princeton Road. The town also has a few unique features. The northwest section of the town has vast gravel reserves, which have been heavily mined over the years, and within that same area, these former gravel pits, is one of the town's most important aquifers, which we mentioned earlier, is the Zone 11 protection area for the City of Gardner's Snake Pond Well. There's also a large area of NEHSP property and core habitat located within the gravel reserves. New Templeton Road is also the site of two notable geologic features, and these are the cliffs that rise above the swamps in New Templeton Road provide a wonderful overlook for the Malone Road Conservation Area, and just a short while further north, they're the site of the Indian Caves. There are several caves, and one is a large chamber big enough for 2 people. A hole at the bottom of the cave is the site of a fire pit, and there are 3 windows above it for smoke to escape. And we have a map of the open space by owner. This was developed for the land use and the open space chapters, and is located in both for the master plan. And this just is a total list of all the open space in Hubbardston by its owner. It's more easy to tell what belongs to who when you have a color copy of the map.
You have color copies there?
Yeah.
Okay.
Perfect.
You can see how much DCR owns, right?
About half the town.
Yeah.
Now we go into the open space and recreation assets of Harvardstown. There's 6 major categories of land ownership. Privately held parcels with only wetlands and zoning protection. There are approximately 1,200 acres of forest, fields, and wetlands in Hubbardston that are owned by individuals, trusts, and corporations without any restrictions on the use of land except as provided by wetlands and zoning regulations. There are privately held parcels within Chapter 61 or easement protections. That provides an incentive in the form of reduced property tax for private owners of forest and farmland to voluntarily maintain their land in some form of open space. And it also provides the town with the option to purchase the land if the owner elects to withdraw from Chapter 61. If the town declines to exercise that option, it reverts to privately held parcels with only wetlands and zoning protection, and the owner may grant conservation easement to the state or a conservation organization. There's non-governmental conservation organization-owned parcels, which is also significant in Hubbardston. There are several organizations active within the town: the East Quabbin Land Trust, North County Land Trust, the Mount Grace Land Conservation Trust, and the North Quabbin Regional Landscape Partnership. Each own protected land or have assisted other entities in protecting open space in Hubbardston. 2 notable areas within Hubbardston that are owned by conservation NGOs are the Henry's Grove, which is owned by the East Quabbin Land Trust with 94 acres, and the Underwood Road Conservation Area owned by North County Land Trust with 65 acres. There are other large conservation NGOs in the region, include Mass Audubon and the New England Forestry Foundation. We also have privately owned parcels, which is private land, which is considered protected, which happens if it has a deed restriction on in perpetuity, if it has an agricultural preservation restriction has been placed on the property, or if the Department of Environmental Protection has placed a conservation restriction on it as part of the Wetlands Conservancy Program. Removing land from the permanent open space protection status so that it may be developed requires an affirmative vote by 2/3 of the state legislature. In most cases, the watershed district would be required to show the Massachusetts Department of Environmental Protection just cause for converting the use of the land. Much of the open space land held as private parcel in Hubbardston are classified as Chapter 61, 61A, or 61B land. And there are also municipally owned parcels in Hubbardston, 4 of which are permanently protected for recreation and conservation areas. They are the Mount Jefferson Conservation Area, about 250 acres, the Malone Road Conservation Area, about 67 acres, the Curtis Recreation Field, which is about 11.5 acres, and the Sharon Conservation Area at about 50 acres. In part, conservation easements were granted to the state in order to help with the cost of the acquisition of some of these lands. There are also state-owned parcels, as the Commonwealth of Massachusetts is the largest landowner in Hubbardston. Much of this land is maintained for the protection of the Ware River watershed, and is managed by Hubbardston State Forest and Hubbardston Wildlife Hubbardston State Forest and Hubbardston Wildlife Management Area are both managed by the Department of Conservation and Recreation and the Department of Fish and Game respectively as well. Moving on to the analysis of needs, well, firstly is Hubbardston will be unavoidably facing the effects of climate change, which will require a range of measures to improve both resiliency and sustainability. One aspect of this will be to improve the economic aspects of local food, fiber, and energy production at Hubbardston Farms Forest while maintaining the landscape's function of removing carbon dioxide from the atmosphere. And another aspect will be to the increased importance of both preserving and utilizing open space, and decisions will need to be made from a holistic point of view such that the ecosystem and wildlife corridor conservation, protection of water resources, and development of interconnecting walking and bicycle paths for public use are all considered in a balanced way. Hubbardston's open space and recreation needs should be considered from this perspective to maintain a strong history of conservation while also ensuring responsible use of open space for recreation going forward. A priority goal should be to establish which existing, if any, unprotected open spaces in Hubbardston need to have priority in terms of preserving ecosystems and wildlife habitat. Such an effort would involve the town administrator, the Board of Selectmen, and other boards, but the initiative can come from the Open Space Committee. Another priority goal that was identified was to ensure that the agricultural land, especially that inactive for use, is not lost to development, in part because the average age of active farmers in Massachusetts is approaching 60, so large tracts of land will be passed or sold on. The Open Space Implementation Committee needs to work closely with Hubbardston's Agricultural Commission and together should work to develop a farm transfer program modeled after other programs established elsewhere. As a beginning, should consider providing links on a website to its own initiatives. Once such land is sold for development, it can be considered lost for good in most cases, and a special initiative may be to calculate how much prime agricultural land has already been lost to development, how much is still available, and then formulate a plan to preserve prime agricultural land in a systematic way if necessary. Recreation discusses the advantages of the wide array of recreational activities. Many residents are fortunate to have undeveloped areas, woodlands, or fields which invite unrestricted foot access right out their back doors. Allowed uses, even in the highly regulated Ware River watershed, are many. There are additional organized recreational opportunities available to use sports teams, which make regular use of the playing fields at the Curtis Recreational Field. There's space for soccer and a baseball diamond and a batting cage. Private baseball fields are also found at the Rod and Gun Club and on Bear Road. An enclosed skate park and child's play area are also at the recreation area, and there's a small basketball court and playground located at the Hubbardston Center School. And here we have the goals and actions going forward for open space and recreation. The first goal is land protection to protect water quality, carbon sequestration, and other ecosystem services, wildlife habitat, agricultural resources, priority parcels, and enhance the quality of life. A number of actions are to develop and maintain a land protection priority map based on changes in ownership, use, protection status, character, etc. Continue building connections and relationships with land conservation organizations, land trusts. Continue applications for relevant grants and funding as needed. Advocate for adoption of town bylaws that encourage environmentally friendly green development. And explore protection of Miller's watershed area in Hubbardston. The second goal is focused on town-wide improvements to increase and improve recreational opportunities, enhance open space protection, protect water quality, and support balanced green development. Some of the actions identified are to work with the Parks Commissioner regarding specific developed recreation sites, to develop and maintain localized trail systems in different areas of the town. This may involve existing trails on state land, new trails on newly acquired land, or trail easements to connecting existing trails. Improving upon and add to the existing trail systems of town, especially in the town and conservation areas, incorporating multi-use capability where possible. To participate in the Community Preservation Act fund allocation decisions, the town has approved of CPA projects in each category. And consider the development of a green cemetery within the town in partnership with the Cemetery Commission. A green cemetery is one that allows for green burials, which minimize environmental impact by foregoing embalming. They use biodegradable burial containers and do not typically use vault or cement grave liners. And also to continue working with the planning board to promote green and low impact development as needed. The third goal, community involvement, to increase the general level of education and participation of the residents. One of the actions identified was to sponsor and organize special events and field trips to expose residents to open space and recreational opportunities, with particular emphasis for the youth. Hold public meetings and hearings regarding major land use goals and decisions on an as-needed basis. Post a list of volunteer opportunities on websites such as trail maintenance, leading educational events, etc. And publicize open space donation account to encourage donations for the general maintenance of open space areas. Fourth goal of trail and open space land improvement talks about the need to continue assessing with GPS and mapping existing and for existing and historic cart paths and trails within town, and produce a townwide trail map. To explore opportunities for new multi-use trailhead and trail systems around the town to encourage local use. To explore opportunities for additional trails within conservation and state forest systems, potentially with multi-use availability. To continue to repair, enhance, and maintain existing trails through volunteer and cooperative efforts, and seek out partnerships with local and regional stakeholders. To explore the possibility of including current and future trail and recreation maps within the annual town report. To plan for and facilitate trail connections wherever practically possible, exploring opportunities to connect local trails into DEM rail trail and incorporate multi-use as a general principle. And also to complete Harvardstown's ADA assessment and develop an initial plan, including funding, if available, to begin an ADA trail. The fifth goal was resource protection and enhancement, exploring open space land plantings for fruit trees and other plants beneficial to wildlife, encourage conservation and reclamation efforts at the Pitcherville gravel pits about aquifer and wildlife habitat protection. Goal 6 is about the Mount Jefferson and Malone Road Conservation Area Stewardship, to improve parking area regarding location and drainage, address trash dumping and littering, develop a self-guided nature trail, involve and engage the community in research management, develop and improve existing signs, and develop a high-capacity accessible trails. And then the last goal identified was town communication with state agencies and legislators. To continue to foster a relationship with the local state forest administration and advocate for town open space needs relating to state forest funding and protection issues. To urge the Massachusetts Executive Office of Energy and Environmental Affairs to support and promote non-motorized recreation and trail access to the Ware River watershed. Sustainable recreation made possible by public access to trails is important to the long-term economic development of Harvardstown, and also to urge the AOEEA to require the Division of Water Supply Protection to allow non-motorized access to the many miles of single-track trails that are either currently or could be made sustainable in the watershed.
Okay.
And that is a general and fairly comprehensive overview of the open space and recreation chapter for the Harvardstown Master Plan.
Okay. Mallory, can you make sure we send at least one copy of this to the open space committee?
Absolutely.
I know they had a lot of input in it to begin with, so it's not gonna be news to them. So I'd like to, if there's questions or public input, now would be the time, and then we'll close the public hearing and we'll vote to accept this chapter.
Are there none such apples currently around?
There's one tree.
That's the heritage Hubbardston tree?
Yeah.
How would you
Where
get
is
them?
it?
I am not 100% sure, but I can get you that information. I'm pretty sure Katie Young has the info.
And if
But
producing fruit?
I'm not 100% sure. I
Alright.
think it is, but maybe not like edible, like super small. But I might be mistaken. But I can get you the info.
So
You
in
can
order
also
to,
send info too, that's interesting.
Yeah.
When you, not this minute.
No.
in order to plant them, so we'd have to graft off that tree.
Probably.
Yeah, cool.
Really? Does anybody do that? That's interesting.
Yeah, it's pretty easy to do. Almost all commercial fruit trees are grafted.
That would be a great Earth Day thing, wouldn't it? Or, have an apple tree from town and get it planted, what a good idea.
Yeah.
Anyway, other comments?
Where is the Miller watershed area in town? I'm not sure I can see it on the map. I'm not sure that it's.
Do you know where Miller Watershed is? I don't.
Looked at this map enough, I should know that.
Isn't Miller's the one that goes under Williamsville Road, the Burnshire area? Where they're replacing the bridge.
I was just wondering, cause I had that thought too, and that is already on the watershed. And then I thought, maybe I just don't know where it is.
So in the north area of Hubbardston, per
Yeah.
Google.
It's up by Waits Pond or Bent's Pond or? Oh, I'll tell you what, we can't waste more time on this.
Yeah,
but,
it's not super critical.
If you have to look it up, I guess. Okay. Any further questions from the public? Any further questions from my board members, including the remote ones? If not,
Oh,
we can't hear you, Francois.
Francois.
Wait, we're turning you up. Wait a minute.
No comments, he said.
No comments, okay. All right. Well then, I'd like to close the public hearing. There's no objection. And I'd like to take a vote on accepting this chapter of the master plan. Just wanna make that motion.
What's the motion you're looking for?
Accept this chapter of the master plan,
I
the open
move
space and rec.
that we accept this, chapter of the master plan.
Okay,
Francois
okay, we got a
seconds.
second from Francois. All in favor, Lipto, aye.
Monroe, I.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Chloe, there's a farm in Vermont that grows them from Hubbardston. That's the only place I can find.
Is it Poverty Lane?
Scart Farm Orchard on
Oh.
Kipling Road.
Okay.
I'll send you the
Interesting.
info.
Keep that in mind and we'll see if we can follow up on
Yeah,
Well, it's nice
But
to
that
know
is a
there's
famous,
another
like-
one out there.
yeah, right, yeah.
thing about Hubbardston. Alright, so just before we let Jonathan go, the final chapter of the master plan, you gotta realize for people out there, this has been such an effort, it's looking at every aspect of the town and pulling it together in a master plan. And the final thing is an implementation chapter which pulls it all together,
Yes.
which Jonathan's also in charge of. So, my thinking was, he's almost he's able to pull it together by May 26th.
Yes, I can have the almost final draft ready to briefly review with you guys on the next meeting, and then send that out to all of the town boards and departments that would be involved, so they can re-examine the goals and actions that have been constructed for all of the various other chapters as well as this one. and to just make sure it's the most up-to-date, implementation of the goals and actions available, and then we tie that all together with the rest of the chapters, update where appropriate, and then you have the complete final draft of the master plan, which goes before public comments, and then it goes to the select board for ratification after any last revisions are done.
And then it goes, actually the whole town, probably next fall, as a warrant article.
Yep.
Let us know in your implementation chapter when you come back on the 26th, and then we'll have to plan the public hearing after all the comments come back.
Yep.
But who should get these? Which boards and committees and which sections, and give us, when you come back,
Yes,
some
I'll have
directions.
a list, because they're all listed out in the, primary responsible party or secondary responsible parties, and then I'll have a total list as well for all of the boards and, departments where to go out to.
Great, okay, well, thank you very much
For having
coming
me.
down and filling us in,
I'm
and,
leaving the rest of the copies I brought, so you'll be swimming in them.
yeah, we'll send them over to the open
Wallpaper
space and
my
recreation
office.
people, they'll be very happy.
It doesn't take a motion to close the public hearing.
Yes, okay, I'm sorry, motion to close the public hearing?
Motion to close the public hearing.
Second, lived all aye.
Monroe, aye.
Francois, aye.
John? John abstains, but we close it anyway. Okay.
Thanks,
For
Jonathan.
having me, I'll be
Not
back in a
there.
couple weeks.
Take care.
We'll see you soon, thanks for coming. Okay, next item of business is a scenic road application, for Hale Road, filed by Ridgequest Investment Properties, which is the new owner of this property. This involves no trees. It is the removal of 16 feet of a stone wall, along Hale Road, an undeveloped lot, for a driveway opening. There's an error in this application, and let's see where it says here, Assessor's Map 4, and then it gives WZ, but WZ is a lot number on Hale.
145.
So it should be 145,
Yeah.
but it was published correctly.
Yes, yep.
So, okay, so if you read that, I'll open hearing quickly on this, go
In
ahead.
accordance with Mass General Law, Chapter 40, Section 15D, Scenic Road Law, the Hubbardston bylaw, Scenic Roads, the Town of Hubbardston Planning Board will hold a public hearing upon the application of Ridgecrest Investment Properties LLC regarding the proposed removal of a portion of stone wall to construct a driveway for a property located at Lot W2 Hill Road, Assessors Map and Parcel 4-145.
Okay, so I'll open the public hearing, and again, I should have probably said this after I opened the public hearing, but no trees to be removed, 16 feet of stone wall. There were photographs provided, it's not a high stone wall, it's kind of the rough walls that you see with the field stones piled at the edge of the road. And we do allow driveway openings, so I don't know whether there's any butters here to address this.
I did have one abutter come in to look at the documents and she was fine with it.
Any other problems with it, any comments or questions? Hearing none, I'll take a motion to approve well, I guess you close the public hearing first and then take the vote, am I doing this in the wrong order?
That's the right order.
So, if there are no more other questions, I'll take a motion to close the public hearing? You wanna make that
So
motion?
moved.
Okay. Francois is seconding it, all in favor, lived all aye.
Monroe, aye.
Francois is raising his hand. Okay, all right, and to approve the application, you wanna make that motion?
So moved.
Okay, a second? From Francois, any further discussion? No? Okay, lived all aye?
Monroe, aye.
Okay, that's approved. Thank you, everybody. Quick next item, I don't know that we need a formal vote, but one thing that's been on my list forever and ever and ever is to try to improve scenic road application. So if you've had a chance to look at that, the main difference was, there were a couple of corrections she made from the one that was put there, but we think it reads more logically. Mallory had developed this, so my two changes were, there's a no that should be crossed out here under 2, if yes, then what types of trees are gonna be removed, and on the second page, the trees that are proposed for cutting, I have added, trees proposed for cutting or removal shall be marked by tying colored plastic ribbon around the trunk at least 1 week prior to the public hearing. And then the driveway also has to be marked, and of course, if trees are involved, then the tree warden goes out there as well. And the other change I made was to cite the statute, from which the Scenic Road Act derives, and also list the addendum, which is part of our decision, which states all the usual terms and conditions that apply, cause we get the same questions over and over again, like, will the DPW cut down these trees, or
Yep.
do I have to remove the stumps, or those kind of questions. So this is a new format. I don't think we need a formal vote unless anybody else thinks we do. It's something that's been on my to-do list for a long time. If you think we've missed anything, let me know.
Bill, do you have your hand up?
Who is that, Bill?
I think Bill has his hand
Bill,
up.
yeah, Bill Murray's our consultant.
He wants the board to vote.
You think the board should vote? Okay, can I have a motion to approve the new format for the Scenic Road
So moved.
application? Is there a second? Any further discussion? Lived all aye?
Monroe, I.
Okay, thank you, everybody. Okay, so finally, for a very patient audience out there, the next thing on the agenda is a completeness determination for a special permit, which has been filed by Paper Crane Provisions LLC, and Boyd Bertol is here representing them, to construct 3 interior rooms in the existing building to process cannabis. So what today would be, it's not the hearing on this, it's a determination that the application submitted is complete enough that we can hold a public hearing on this. And the public hearing, we don't have time to do it on the 26th because it's insufficient advertising time. So Christopher, it would be your organizational meeting would be the public hearing unless you object to that.
Well,
Which would
assuming I
be-
get voted as
is-
chair at that meeting.
Yes, assuming you're,
That's a bold assumption.
yeah. Well,
If I
I'm sure
was,
there'll be much competition.
Ben
If
is
I
here
was,
for
I
you,
wouldn't have a
right?
problem with it.
Okay,
That's it. I'm
if
just
you were
promoting something.
hypothetically going to be the chair, this would be okay with you, right?
Yes.
Okay, so, actually Bill gave me, Bowie, you're here and you've been sitting here for a long time. If you wanna give a 1-minute explanation of what you're doing to the people sitting here, that'd be fine.
Or
Sure.
Patrick
Go
is
ahead.
here too.
Yes.
This is
And
your
Patrick,
favorite.
okay,
Hi.
go ahead,
This is
one of you
my
two, tell us what.
engineer, Patrick McCarty.
Okay, so background for everybody is we approved a special permit for this location for an outdoor grow. And they now have a 1 acre under cannabis cultivation. And this is how they're going to process that, which is gonna take place in a building, which already exists. And it doesn't affect the site plan that's already been approved. But the process is interesting. You'll have to give it the public hearing again, but for the sake of the people here, you can talk a minute about how you're gonna do that.
Sure, so, for the record, Patrick McCarty Engineering. Actually, I was actually this board's consultant 20-something years ago when I worked for Rizzo Associates, that's now Tetra Tech, so it's nice to be back in this room that I haven't been in 20 years.
I'm sure it hasn't changed.
That was Vin Ritchie was the chair back then, and Mark Dimick was on the board, so nice to be back. So Bowie and his partners hired us to prepare the special permit application, as you mentioned, Madam Chair, to just construct 3 rooms within the existing building to essentially wash the cannabis with ice and water. Very simple process. It's a commercial machine that they'll purchase. They'll have a commercial ice maker that uses about, worst case scenario, 125 gallons of water a day to make the ice. They put the ice and the cannabis in this. They wash it for 10 minutes. Really it's just rinsing it with water like you'd rinse your lettuce or whatever produce you buy at the supermarket. They drain that water off that they'll reuse for irrigation, so it's not put to waste, and they'll capture
The resin heads.
trichomes to be packaged and processed in the next room. So no new employees, no new work hours, no new odors because everything's within the building. So in our opinion, pretty simple process that really builds off of the existing special permit. And as you had mentioned, we'll schedule a public hearing and can give a full explanation at that time, seeing that I don't think a butter notification or anything has gone out yet, so.
Okay, that's what we need to have
I don't
happen.
think it'd be good to get too deep into the conversation until that process is done, but that's the quick overview.
That's great.
That was very complete.
It was, yeah. And you have there, or from the original permit, this is not a crop that's grown with pesticides and herbicides, it's all an organic process, so that isn't going back, and
Correct.
there's no chemicals added to the water.
Right.
So
Zero.
this is a very nice, from an environmental point of view, I
Yes,
think.
agreed.
Okay, well, thanks for that, and it's a motion we need if we're, so there were questions that went back and forth, which was why the question was whether this was complete, and they were between Bill Murray and
Myself.
yes, yourself. And it regarded, are there chemicals being used, are there changes gonna be, and they went back and forth. So Bill can't be here tonight, he called me a couple of days ago, he's up in Vermont caring for an ill father-in-law, I believe, anyway. But he did say, I did speak to him
He's not
today.
meeting. He's in Zoom.
Yeah.
Oh, he was able to get into Zoom. So Bill, I'm representing you correctly, though, right? That you think we're at a point where the planning board could determine that the minimal submittal requirements for a special permit have been met and accept this special permit application as amended, correct?
That is my recommendation.
And that,
My recommendation.
okay. So do you want me to read that again into the record?
Nope, it's been recorded
We've got
twice.
it. Okay.
You're good.
Alright, do you wanna make that motion? Yes.
Uh,
You want me to read it again?
yes.
Okay. The Hubbardston Planning Board determines that the minimum submittal requirements as set forth in Article 7, Section 7.2 of the zoning bylaws have been met and accept the special permit application as amended from Paper Crane Provisions LLC.
So moved.
Okay.
You're gonna be a good chair.
Is there a second? Francois has seconded. Any further discussion from the public out there? From the board? Hearing none. Lived all aye?
Monroe, I.
Schneider, aye. O'Malley, aye.
Okay, so it passes, we've accepted your application, we will advertise and you'll be back on the 16th,
Of June.
16th of June, barring any notifications, lack of a quorum.
Great.
Somebody else stepping up to chair and changing that, their mind about it, but I think we're good to go.
All right, thank you
Excellent.
very much.
Very
Thank you
good,
very
thanks
much.
for sticking around and answering our questions.
Have a great night, everyone.
Thank you. Next thing on the agenda, you know what, I'm going to
Skip around.
skip and let Mr.
Tracy go.
Parisi go next, cause otherwise you're gonna be here another half an hour. So, there you go. So, I'm moving things up, this item, for people listening with an agenda, it's item H. And it's listed on the agenda as a completeness determination for a special permit filed by Vertex Towers LLC, to construct, an installation of a wireless telecommunication facility. The street address tagged to that is 14 Main Street, although this is a lot quite far in the back. So I just wanna state before and they're represented, so the company is Vertex Towers LLC, and this tower would be 150 feet tall, just shy, on this lot, and he's gonna talk about it. It would be, the user would be AT&T, but it would have provisions for 4 providers altogether. And there is a big process, we have a whole zoning bylaw that is devoted to how you would site a telecommunication facility. The only problem I have tonight, and then I'm gonna give you the floor, is, we depend as a volunteer board on our expert reviewing this application for completeness. And he has not had the time to really do that, so we are not gonna make that vote for completeness tonight. But that does not require to vote on completeness an advertisement. So if you and it's also an administrative action, so if the board changes, it would be binding that we accepted it as complete. So if you want to come back on May 26th for completeness, I believe Bill, and he can speak for himself, could have his review done by that time. Right, Bill? And if he has questions in the meantime, since he's been paid for this review, he can be in touch with you and
Yes.
your engineering firm. So that's where I'm thinking this will go, is it'll be rescheduled for a completeness hearing on the 26th of May.
Can I start scheduling it out for the 16th though, to have a hearing on the same day as Bowie?
Can we talk about that?
Oh, sure, sorry. Go ahead.
Well, Bowie isn't back, he's back on the 16th for his whole,
Special, yeah, well, go ahead, let Fran go, and then we'll just figure it
okay,
out.
we're talking about the 26th here.
Yeah, go
Okay,
ahead.
alright.
Good evening, my name is Francis Parisi, representing the applicant Vertex Tower Assets. As kind of a joke, I submitted a 29-page memorandum that I won't read word for word for word. We're seeking a telecommunications facility. As was noted, you guys have a very extensive bylaw. I actually believe I'm probably the first one to ever read it. And Roland was the second one to ever read it. And I'm just really here to talk about process. Because the zoning bylaw requires us to get a special permit from the planning board, which has primary jurisdiction here. I understand your completeness review, I concur with that, I'll come back on the 26th. We can work with your consultant between now and the 26th to get him whatever else he needs, but I suspect that he has a complete application, because we went through your bylaw very carefully. In addition, we require variances from the zoning board. Your zoning bylaw has a very unusual provision. We are in a permitted zone, subject to a special permit from the planning board.
Correct.
However, because of wetlands and we can't drive there, we have acquired an access easement over an abutting property that isn't in a permitted zone, but all we're doing is using it as an access driveway. However, your zoning bylaw says that access driveways,
has to be through frontage.
which I've never seen before, I don't quite understand it, however, we require a variance from it, I spoke to Roland about that. So, and there's some other confusion in your zoning bylaw. So, one of the real question is, which comes first, the chicken or the egg? Do I go to the zoning board first, or the planning board first?
I'm gonna refer that to Bill.
Hmm.
Bill Murray is from Plays Associates, right, our consultant. Bill, what do you suggest? Do we grant the special permit subject to getting the zoning board of appeals? Or does the zoning board of appeals have to rule first? Or does it matter, is it their choice?
No, it is their choice, it's their choice as to.
But wait, she's gotta turn you up.
It's not.
Bill, we can't hear you, you
Go ahead,
gotta
Bill.
talk louder.
He said it's their choice. Their choice.
It is the applicant's choice.
Applicant's
It's the
choice.
applicant's choice.
I would prefer, well, I routinely have to get variances. In your particular case, it's a unique one, but usually we need some variance under the telecommunications bylaw. In yours, I don't really need any, but I would prefer to go to the planning board first. And the reason for that is the planning board has primary jurisdiction. They have a 20-page bylaw to look at and concur that we meet it all. The zoning board has a very minor issue. And so it could either be, and in some instances, towns hold joint planning board, zoning board meetings. I'm not sure if that's a possibility here.
I don't know that I've ever done it, doesn't mean I couldn't explore it. The zoning board of appeals does not meet regularly, right?
Per
It
diem.
convenes
As
when
needed.
there's an issue. So, if they wanted to, we do have a member of our board who's not here tonight, who is also a member of the zoning board of appeals. Who is the chair of the zoning board?
Scott Jansen's.
Would you like me to explore it with Scott Jansen?
I don't care, it's just, Mallory and I had talked about a schedule, it's now evolving.
Yeah.
In a better way.
Yeah.
It's my understanding the next zoning board meeting is June 6th. And do they meet, you say they don't meet regularly. I believe, and Mallory is correct, that we're targeting the 16th as a date for a public hearing, assuming we have a completeness review on the 26th.
Yeah, if I could start like advertising
Right.
to get you there.
Right, okay, and so when would be the next zoning board meeting after the 6th?
We would have to schedule it out. They just usually meet Mondays and
I think I would, cause what's gonna happen is abutters are gonna get notice of the zoning board meeting,
Mhm.
and they're gonna say, what's it gonna look like, what's it gonna do, who's there, what, where, and
Sure.
the zoning board has one very small issue.
Yeah.
So I'd rather get the planning board
Okay.
on board first, and maybe schedule the first public hearing and then a zoning board meeting. I don't know the way to get through this whole thing in one meeting, maybe, if I'm good, so we might have several planning board public
Sure.
hearings, or more than one.
The variance also requires notice to abutters and so
Exactly.
forth.
Yeah.
But
So,
it's a different issue.
It's a different issue.
Exactly, and
I understand where you're coming from, so we'll do it, we already had it stamped in, cause we have 60 days from the time application is received to schedule a
Right.
public hearing. So if for some chance we go past that 60 days, we'll just need a letter from you.
and we'll do that.
Yeah.
I'm not here to railroad this through.
No.
And as long as we're working methodically, I'm very happy.
Perfect.
The other issue that we have relative to timing is, your zoning bylaw requires us to do a visibility demonstration by putting a balloon up in the air.
Yes.
And it has very specific requirements with respect to notice and advertising. And I just wanna look at that because that affects the timing of the, cause we wanna do it before the planning board public hearing.
Right.
And
Right.
I guess it says that, it shall be advertised 14 days, and we gotta send notice to abutters 14 days prior to the test. We do this routinely. The biggest challenge we have is predicting the weather in advance.
14 days.
And so, if we were targeting the, what'd you just say, the, 16th, what was the meeting after,
Our next meeting would be
June.
the 16th.
June 16th, right?
Mhm.
Right, so if we were targeting that, I'd try to do a balloon, the,
June 2nd.
yeah, it doesn't, we can pick any day, but it's gotta be before, it's gotta be June 2nd, which means I gotta advertise it soon.
Yeah.
And I don't know my
Do you ever, I know you say you have trouble with wind, rain and so
Yeah.
forth, do you ever advertise it with a rain date? and
Yes,
bump it?
exactly, and what I do is I say, we'll do it on this day, if the wind doesn't cooperate, we'll pick another day, and I have a website that I post it on, so people can look it up and see whether the balloon is up, and I can provide that information to Mallory, so she can put it on the town's website. It's just, it's always a challenge,
You don't publish a second date, you publish a website in case it's canceled.
No, I publish multiple, like usually what we'll say, well, we're gonna do it on Tuesday. If we can't do it Tuesday, we'll do it the next day and each successive day until we can do it successfully.
Okay.
Check the website and I'll be in constant communication with Mallory to say, okay, we can't do it Tuesday, we'll do it Wednesday. Oh, Wednesday come around, we can't do it. Usually I can guarantee the weather 24 hours in advance.
Yeah.
And nothing before that.
Yeah.
Okay.
So,
In your notice on this, it goes to abutters,
well, that's another
Or-
question too, but yes.
assuming it goes to abutters in the town. Do you then give a proposed place where people gather to look at it?
No, because we're gonna put a balloon up at the exact location.
Yeah,
So people can gather wherever they want.
okay.
Meaning, if there's an abutter that says, am I gonna see it, the best place to look is his property. I
Okay.
don't go on his property.
Okay.
We engage consultants to do this, and we engage consultants that will drive around and take pictures. So if the board said to me, and you really have until the day before, we'd like a picture from town hall, or the post office, or some public place, or a road, Brigham Street, for example, Brigham Road, we can do that. I can't go on private property, but we can go on any place public. So if there are public places that you would like, playgrounds, parks, historic, things like that.
So this is not like the typical situation where a planning board would post a quorum and come for a hike with you guys, it would just be, we would be looking like the rest of the
We could,
public.
that's a different question. We can schedule a site visit. And oftentimes, the site visit is most beneficial the day of the balloon.
Yeah, would be,
The problem
sure.
with that is, I gotta predict that day 14 days in advance. And so, and I just did one last weekend where we said, we're gonna do it Friday or Saturday or Sunday and Monday. And, Sunday turned out to be the best day. And so I was frantically communicating with the Mallory in this town to say, we're gonna do the site visit on Friday morning. No, can't do it, let's do it Saturday morning. No, can't do it, let's do it Sunday morning. And so it was a logistical, challenge for folks like you. So we don't have to do it on the day of the balloon. We can schedule a site visit really anytime we want, but, you know, visibility is always the biggest issue. And so scheduling the site visit during the day of the balloon is always the most productive.
Okay, so if we do a site visit, is this access road cleared so you can get up there now? Or
No.
no, or how long's the walk?
The driveway is off of Brigham Road.
Yep.
And it's, and then there's a large field, and I don't even know if the, field is passable. It would be a substantial walk. Yeah, my suspicion is we'd drive 100 feet and walk 1,000 feet, across a field into the woods.
Well, if it's walkable, we can do that.
It's walkable, it's clearly walkable. I've never been there. I'll have my engineer that day, who's been there many times, and surveyed it. So it's walkable, it's a hike.
Okay. So, again, this is, well, I know you're here for this, right? No? You're not here for this, okay.
But it's very interesting.
Okay, no, I just don't wanna exclude the public, or anybody else that's signed in. But again, this is not the completeness,
Right, I
this is
understand.
logistics, just for the
And
public.
so I'm just trying to look ahead to June, and
So-
assuming we get a completeness, and see, unfortunately, this is gonna, now that we're picking a date, this is requiring me to advertise the balloon before the completeness review. And so, cause we won't get, I'll probably have to put the ad in the what paper do you advertise in?
The Gardner News. This is Gannett Legals.
Would that have to be before the, ask Bill. Bill, are you there? He's up in remote Vermont
Yeah.
somewhere. Do you think the balloon test has to be before the completion determination?
No, there's no,
I'm sure they could do it before, because it's just a supporting level of information and information to the general community. It would be better if it was, no, I think it would be fine.
He said it would be fine.
I agree with that. Your bylaw says it's gonna be advertised with sufficient notice. It doesn't say when it does, so I can advertise it now.
Yep.
And we're gonna target, now that I know, what I'm gonna target is for, right around June 2nd or so.
Okay.
And what I'll say is, I think June 2nd would be a Tuesday then, right? Or,
Thursday.
Thursday. I might advertise it for June 1st.
Okay.
Only because it would be, Wednesday, if not Wednesday, Thursday, if not Friday. So we have a couple days in the week to have a choice there.
June 7th is our annual town meeting, so don't pick that time.
Yeah,
Well, I mean, people
right.
would be, but I think it'd be kinda,
Right, so I'm gonna do it Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, and if not, if for some reason the weather, like we had tremendous winds for 5 days in the last, it would've, and that was lasted like 5 or 6 days in a row.
Yeah.
That would've been impossible. So I'll advertise for Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, so they 1, 2, 3, all right, I know my calendar.
It's be the 31st. You said Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday?
I can even do the Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, yeah, I'll do
Yeah.
it 31,
1 and 2.
31, 1, 2, 3, and that
Perfect.
gives us 4 days to schedule it, and we can talk about whether you wanna do a site visit on the day of the balloon.
Yeah, because we only have to post that 48 hours in advance if there's going to be a quorum.
yeah, and actually, we can do a site visit without even
Without
having
posting?
to,
Yeah.
as long as we don't talk
Yeah,
about it.
you're right.
Perfect.
So-
The site, like I said, it's nice to do on the day of the balloon, but it's not necessary.
Sure.
My suspicion is that board members will have the opportunity to drive around and see, or hopefully not see the balloon, and then we can do the hike the same day or a different day.
Well, try to make it the same day and we'll see how it works out,
I
who wants to
agree.
come.
Right, so I'm gonna schedule that for the 31st.
Okay. What
Your
day of the week is it, 31st?
Tuesday.
Tuesday.
The other thing, your bylaw says that I gotta put a balloon up for 24 hours. Not only is it impossible to predict the weather 14 days in advance, it's impossible to keep a balloon up for 24 hours. And my goal is to put it up reasonably and advertise it better, rather than try to keep it up for a long period of time. We usually try to do it as early as possible in the morning. And
Okay,
the reason
you were
is,
talking about the wind shear moving in.
yeah, because what happens is winds are always less early in the morning, and as the world warms up, it gets windier as days progresses. And just having done this so many times, so we'll endeavor to do it like 8 to 2, and that
Okay.
way, and I think that's reasonable. We'll put an ad in the Gardner paper. We'll notify abutters, and but the real question is, it actually says, your bylaw says, a mailer will be sent to each residence at the expense of the applicant. And I don't know whether that means abutters who, or everybody in town. I've never done it before, I've never heard
You
of it.
know you inherit bylaws.
I understand that, and I would notify abutters. Like I said, I would put an ad in the Gardner paper, a legal notice, we can put on the town's website.
I was gonna say, we'll publicize it on the website and on social media as well.
Does it actually say, does it say by mail, or just shall notify?
It says a mailer shall be sent to each residence at the expense of the applicant.
We do have a townwide mailing list, right, the cards?
Laurie may have something, I'm sure she does,
How much, do you know how much it
I
costs?
can't even imagine,
If it's a town,
we have to pay for it, so, it's still postage, we don't get it for free.
does he get the reduced postage? No?
What was
Well-
that?
That's right, we have Bill here, I forget.
1,700 residences.
Yeah, 1,700.
We have 1,700 residents. So, Bill, what does this mean, that he has to notify residents? Were you here, were you the, here in 2018 or whenever this was passed? Do you know what the intent was?
Wasn't me.
What number is that one?
Where is it again?
It's
Well, it's not gonna be
18.5.2.
It's on page 56. Applicant must perform a balloon test after desired site location has been determined unless the planning board determines it's inappropriate or unnecessary with respect to 18.4, there's an out for us, 18.4.2.
That's
Why?
not applicable, it's not applicable.
I don't understand why they would've wrote it so that you had to have the balloon up overnight, like what?
Exactly, that makes no sense. So, like I said, 8 to 2 is usually reasonable. I can, and see, cause the problem too is as if it gets windy, people don't know whether they can't see the balloon or the balloon's not up.
Right,
And so, making it shorter and better advertised is better than, trying to put it up for 24 hours.
So I'm just wondering what, I did read this also for the first time, today. I'm just wondering if there isn't, this says we have authority, a waiver of these conditions may be granted, oh, that's setback and location. Where's the balloon? It says unless something.
Let's look at that, let's put,
Applicant must perform a balloon test, okay.
Do we have any other places in the bylaw
Unless
where
the
each
planning board
residence
determines
is-
inappropriate or unnecessary with respect to section 18.4.2B. 18.4,
unfortunately, that talks about existing structures.
oh,
Like if
okay,
we were
alright,
putting
so
on a
that's
water
why it
tank
doesn't
or
work.
something, exactly.
The balloon test shall be conducted continuously, the date, time, and location must be advertised, newspaper, journal, in addition, a mailer will be sent to each residence at the expense of the applicant. I don't know, I mean, if we allow you to, if we alter from this, we're, you know, it sets us up for a challenge, but, Bill, what is your thinking on this? Can you hear us?
I'm taking it literally.
Yeah,
What did you say?
He's
I-
taking it literally, that's how it's written.
yeah, like if I was advising somebody on this, I would tell them, yeah, it's not reasonable, but you should do it.
Well, it just gets ridiculously expensive. I could also ask for a variance from the zoning board. And I've
Yeah.
already applied for one, I can just amend my
Add it,
application.
yeah.
Add my application, and I don't mind notifying abutters, they're the ones that are the most concerned.
Yeah.
But,
Residents.
and, you know, someone on the other side of town, it's silly.
Do we have though, hey, let me think of that, for 1 second, a proposal for you. Is there a mailer going out about town meeting?
I'm sure it's already gone out, I think I've seen it on their Bobby's desk already printed.
So it's too late to tag on to
Probably
that,
if there is a mailer, it's too late.
okay.
Do you have a sign, like, for town
We
meeting?
do, we have a sign bylaw, oh my goodness, we have 2 signs actually,
Is it like a manual sign or an electronic sign?
both.
Maybe you can put it on that.
We
You
can
know,
definitely put it on that.
I'd rather do that, it just seems silly, and I'm sure the sign is right here in front of town hall, or.
Well, we could put it on, we have like we have a sign that could go right in front of town hall, it's a little bit further down. We have the town sign, what they call it, Jacob's Corner,
Yes,
and then there's the rec field sign
rec field
we
sign.
can utilize as well.
Right.
3 different signs.
I would still urge us and the applicant to be cautious on this, cause this is something that I can foresee as becoming a surprisingly contentious issue.
I'm not predicting that, I respect your opinion, I'm just, and I'm not trying to hide it, I'm just trying to comply, but also be prudent and cost effective. I see, putting it on the sign in front of town hall where the tower is gonna be across the street is more valuable than putting it, you know, sending someone that lives, 5 miles away on the other side of Harvardstown. That's the value of it.
we can also get you the price if you want, what it would be to send a card.
Yeah, well, that's relevant, so I agree with that.
Can you find that out? And if the town sends it as a notice that he could be reimbursed, is there a break on that postage? No, okay.
Yeah, I'll ask, I will ask for a variance because it's a hardship, and I will endeavor to work with Mallory to advertise it as reasonably as possible. Again, I'm not trying to hide it. The value of the balloon is it tells people where it's not visible. Because everyone thinks 150 feet, we were gonna see this all over Hubbardston. And we actually do a lot of research to show that it doesn't, because of topography and terrain and trees and, I'm not saying it's gonna be invisible, but, everyone assumes you're gonna see, something 150 feet. And you might see that much, you might see that much, or you might see not at all. Like when you
You'll
drive
see
down.
it from like though, some of the vistas in town. If you look at Mount Jeff and Malone Road, that looks over, you can see the church, it's way up high.
Right.
You can see the church spire very clearly, and it's higher than the church spire.
I suspect, yeah.
So
Yeah,
I,
and that's, but it's also, I don't know where Mount Jeff is, but, miles away, so it's, we're not
it'd be like the
building-
church steeple,
Yeah, it'd be thinner than that, but yeah.
but you can also see the windmills on,
Yeah.
yeah, well, let's use it from there
Yeah,
too.
it's
I'm
a
not-
disturbing
My suspicion, you
story.
can also see the
I'm
cell
not-
tower, there's
Yeah.
a cell tower on top of Mount Wachusett.
I'm not trying to tip this either way,
I
I'm just saying the risk is on you if somebody comes back and says it wasn't appropriately noted. So maybe if it's like $300 or $400 to send a card everywhere, I don't know.
If it's $300 or $400, I would certainly agree to it. If
See
I-
what it is, Mel.
She's
But,
typing right now.
you just said
Okay.
1,700 homes times, is that 39 cents,
I
50
think
cents?
So, yeah, I
So I
don't
guess,
remember
if we have 1,700 times 50 cents is $700, $800. So,
It's not 50
I don't-
cents.
what?
If it's a postcard, it's not 50 cents. It's
Yeah.
What is
Even
it?
cheaper.
It's more like
Right.
35
Right.
cents.
Yeah,
Right.
there-
So,
there's
you
a
know what,
special bulk mailing
I
rate.
respect your opinion, and I'll work with Mallory to work it out.
Let us
Yeah.
know what you
Yeah.
decide to do.
Exactly.
Cause just in terms of my opinion there, also remember this was stuck in here not that long ago and passed through in a town meeting, so,
2018, yeah.
I'd keep that in mind. A lot
Understood.
of those folks are still,
You're the
Still
lucky person that gets to draw.
Yes.
We had the same problem with the marijuana bylaw, it just had bugs in it. I do understand the two types of towers, I mean, I don't understand what they look like,
Yeah.
but I can't imagine a tower that's not a lattice tower, I don't know what the other one is. But where it's inconsistent wording, I think it's a
Right.
mistake,
I,
but would there be any reason why? You know, I read your whole thing today, why the,
I understand, I can show you pictures of both, beauty's in the eye of the beholder. There's benefits to, a lattice tower, and we just like them better as a developer and industry, because, a monopole is engineered for what we know today, and it's really hard to change it in the future. And a lattice tower is a lot easier to change because it's a lot of individual components, and so you can swap out components to make it. Monopoles that were built 10 and 15 years ago are no longer structurally sound, and there's a huge problem with that. And so we're trying to develop structures that are gonna be here for a long time. And
but I don't understand why they wouldn't have carried that through and limited it to the monopole in your, I don't understand it.
Yeah, the zoning bylaw, I think, again, we are the first person to read it. I'm not sure the thought process, but there's a provision that says it can be either a lattice or a monopole.
Right, and then somewhere else it says only a monopole can apply for something,
Right,
I don't know
so
what.
I've actually applied for a variance from the
Okay.
zoning board for that.
Okay,
If, I also applied for a waiver from the planning board, cause there's some
Okay.
provisions that say you can waive, I think you're right, only the setback requirements that we meet, however, it was vague, so maybe you could interpret it as a blanket, all things. If not, the zoning board can vary it,
okay.
and if they deny the variance, I'm not saying we
We can
won't.
do some things with special permits too.
Right, exactly.
So, in the fencing, I agree with you, is why would you put a solid fencing in the
Right.
middle of the woods?
Right, exactly.
So, you would want a chain link, would you not? I
Right.
mean,
It's just for
and
security
we would actually
purposes.
like it to be a little off the ground so the wildlife can go in and out? If you can do that?
I've never had that request before.
It's
Welcome to
common with
Hubbardston.
solar fields.
It's a much smaller area for this than a multi-acre
Yeah,
solar field.
Oh, how-
we're 60 by 60.
Oh, you've got a fence, okay, it's not a big
postage
fencing
stamp.
area,
Yeah,
okay.
no, it's a postage stamp. We literally fence it 60 by 60.
Town clerk said she did a townwide mailing around $300 recently.
Do it. Then I'm gonna actually do it, absolutely.
Do it, and get us all off the hook.
When you said 1,700, I was doing 1,700 times like certified mail. That's
I'm
like-
with you,
No.
yeah, I know.
That sounded like a big
This
number.
doesn't say
Yes.
certified,
No.
No, I understand.
okay.
She said she did a postcard, and then they do give you a bulk rate, and she
And
said
she
it
can
was
give 'em
around
a-
$300.
And she can give them the address list?
Yeah.
So they can
Yeah.
put it through your,
And
take
you-
the
and you're good with
staples.
the stamps, right?
Okay, alright, we got a
Yeah,
plan.
good, I completely agree with that.
We
And
have
that-
senior workers, we'll
Alright.
put them to work.
Yeah,
Alright, perfect, so, we
So
just,
we got the date for the balloon, 31st, 1st, 2nd, 3rd, with the 31st maybe being our walkthrough tour, right? We got the completeness review on the 16th of June, which is also the organizational meeting.
Francois' hand is up.
no,
The completeness is, that's when we'll decide your application's complete.
I thought we just said the completeness review was on May 28th, or 26th,
26th.
with targeting a public hearing on the,
Oh, is that what we
on
said? Did I have this wrong?
the 16th.
You've got it, Francois, right, yep, so
got it
we're gonna
right.
target for the
Okay,
next
okay,
meeting, yep.
Okay, okay.
And Francois had his hand up.
Okay, Francois, you gotta talk loud, cause we really can't hear you.
Thank you. I hope you can hear me now.
The chair is a little
Yes.
tough. Okay, you can.
Okay. Right. I have a couple quick questions for the gentleman who is speaking on behalf of the project. First question I have is in regards to the what is your projected timeline for this
What's-
to be completed? Should this go through all the processes? I understand that there's variability based on a number of factors, but what is your target date this year?
What's your targeted timeline for the completion of this project?
I don't have one, and the reason is, it's a multi-step process, we have to go through local permitting, and then we have some more federal, regulatory stuff that we had to do and more engineering. The goal, we get hung up by winter, so we can't do construction during the winter, cause you can't find people to climb towers in December. So the goal is get through the local permitting process by, the end of the summer.
Is it a multiple year process? He wants to
He
know.
says primary process by the end of the summer, Francois.
Local process,
Local process.
No, I'm talking about the final installation and once this is all, what is
Oh.
the target date from that perspective? That's kind of what I'm looking for.
Build date, do you have any idea?
No, and unfortunately, if the local process we lose, 4 to 6 months of,
4 to 6 months later.
no,
No?
we lose, the constructability during the winter. So if I can't get it permitted by, say, August, it means that I can't build it until next spring. If I
Okay.
can get it permitted, in July, August, then might be able to get it done this winter.
Can you hear that, Francois?
Yeah, I did hear that. Thank you
Okay.
very much. And I do have a second follow-up question that is in regards to the project narrative. You indicate in your introduction that this particular structure will be able to accommodate at least wireless broadband communication carriers and associated antennas, electronic equipment, cabling, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. What is the
He's
maximum capacity that you can, I'm sorry?
He says in his application, 4 vendors. One would be AT&T, the primary, right? And then 3 other,
Yeah, I read that. My question is different. My question is, what is your maximum capacity? Can you accommodate, how many additional vendors can you, how many other wireless broadband communication carriers could you theoretically put on a tower like this here?
Did you catch that?
Yeah, how many others? See that,
I'm just, no, I'm simply asking because I'm trying to understand how big a project this is and from a scope perspective. Public hearing questions that you
Yeah,
Okay, that's fair enough.
those are public hearing
We can do
questions.
that. Thank you.
Right.
Okay, thank you.
and I'm gonna answer the question by saying, that is the reason why we prefer lattice towers, cause they're just more flexible. If I, a monopole it's like a light pole, only it's really tall, and I gotta put ports in it, and so I can only put in a finite number of ports. And so we design it for 4, and then if like public safety, local police says, can we put an antenna on it? With a monopole, I got nowhere to put it. A lattice, I got everywhere to put it.
Okay.
If,
That's what I wanted to, that's where I wanted to go. So
Right.
my understanding here is your primary reason for lattice is that you have flexibility, and that's why you're putting this here. I'm trying to understand from a completeness perspective, if we have anything else that we'd like you to add, that's where I was going.
okay.
unfortunately, I couldn't hear him. What's
He's
that?
satisfied.
Okay,
He's
good.
satisfied. Yeah, he's actually pretty knowledgeable about this.
Yeah.
So we have a communications antenna that's supposed to be a regional dispatch antenna that's supposed to be being built in this town. You've probably heard about it.
And, is it a tower?
It's
Or
a
just
tower. And so we are getting pushback, why do we need 2 towers in town? Because in theory, this was supposed to be already up. I don't know what has happened to it, do you?
It's sitting in pieces at DPW, and we're not getting any feedback on why it's not moving forward.
Anyway, in theory, we're also going to put it up for emergency services, but then eventually lease spaces to other people.
Was it designed, that's a, you'd have to be very thoughtful to design a tower. Cause emergency services, the type of antennas that they use are not structurally demanding. They're basically the same thing as that flagpole right there. It's a little stick.
Well, this was a big tower, and we had very little to say about it because it was built on municipal property, it was a municipal use, and it's exempt from zoning.
Is that, and it's on,
It's off
Hubbardston?
68
Gardner Road.
Gardner Road.
but I thought it was like for the benefit of like the town of city of Fitchburg or something like that.
No, it's regional,
Yeah, we're regionalized with the city or town of Rutland, and we have no service when it comes to
Yeah,
solar
that was it, the
radio.
town of Rutland.
Yeah,
It was, it's town of Rutland property inside the town of.
Yeah, so
Hubbardston?
the pole is gonna be their property, and then it's
But
gonna be
the
placed
land-
on the Hubbardston land. And it's supposed to be benefiting their dispatch center, which we are part of.
I find it hard to believe that they designed it for, commercial telecommunications. It's just, that's a whole different structure.
Well, they even wanted to go higher, and none of our, I think they were allowed to go higher, were they not?
I
One
can't remember
fifty
off
is
the
the
top of my
limit, I can't remember, but we are trying to prevent the proliferation of towers. There is, when you do surveys of the people in town, what's the biggest problems in this town? Cell phone reception when you're driving is always in the top 5, right? So I think that there may be opposition, but there's also a lot of support, cause it's a really an annoying problem.
Right.
But I would like to I would like to be able to resolve these questions, but it's not you to answer, it's us to answer, is what's going on with the municipal tower? And I have made that question, and you should be aware of it, cause I suppose it's competition at some point, but.
Except for, we're a private company, we deal with private landlords.
Yeah.
We deal with public companies like AT&T and Verizon, but we're kind of in charge. We have done some work with municipalities, and the problem with the municipality is there's nobody in charge, there's nobody that can make a decision, it's management by committee, and nothing ever gets done. And when you ask 6 different people their opinion, you get 6 different opinions.
Yeah, okay, well,
and-
they're not offering for your help, and I'm just,
Right.
in spirit of disclosure, I'm saying we're being asked these questions,
Right.
but they don't involve you, except people.
And you know, folks like AT&T have deadlines and demands, and so, you know, we, I was aware of it, I thought it was Fitchburg, but Rutland is right.
Okay.
I don't know
Okay.
that that's ever gonna happen.
Okay.
So,
So we have a very good plan.
yes.
You're gonna
exactly.
do the cards.
Yep.
We're doing the balloon test either 31st, which was when I plan the walkthrough
Yep.
too, if we can do it that day. From 8 to 2,
Yes,
instead of the 24 hours. Or in failing the 31st, in order, 1st, 2nd, or 3rd.
correct,
Right. And the completeness hearing, we're gonna try to do on the 26th of May.
correct.
And the public hearing, the 16th of
Correct.
June. So Mallory, here's the question for you. Is there time between the 26th of May and the 16th of June to advertise the public
I
hearing?
can get it into the paper now.
You're gonna put it in ahead of the completeness hearing.
I can.
If we put it in, the only problem is if we put it in ahead of the completeness hearing and then Bill tells us he wants more and you don't have it, you'd have to advertise
Well, then you
twice.
can open the public hearing and then just continue it if needed.
Correct, that's what I would do, I agree.
Oh, can I do that, Bill? Okay, I've never done it. If you
Yeah.
guys tell me I can do it,
Absolutely
I'll
can.
look into it. I think, the question is, in order to have the public hearing on the 16th of June, with the completeness being the 26th of May, they'd have to put the ad in before the completeness was voted on. Can we do that, and then if for some reason we don't get to completion, either postpone the hearing, or what would we do?
Open and continue.
Open and continue, can we do that?
You can.
Yeah.
Okay, alright,
I agree with that, I think that's a sound.
okay.
That's awesome.
Is there any member of the public, and this is this is not the hearing, you're gonna get all the plans and everything, but that has a question regarding this? Ladies? Virtual people out there?
No virtual.
Okay. Alright,
All right, wonderful, thank you very much.
thanks for sitting around and.
Again, we're not trying to railroad this, we're trying to work and deal with it, and I'm sure, we've done this in many other cities and towns. I can give you lots of examples, lots of references. We just built a tower in Shutesbury, just on the other side of the reservoir. We just built a tower in Coleraine. We've been approved in probably half a dozen towns in the area: Ashfield, Conway, Rowe, Otis, Munson. We built a tower in Monterey. We've done a lot of work in rural Massachusetts, so a lot of people, and can give you lots of pictures and.
Yeah, do that,
great.
do that.
Thank you.
And you know, one of the things good about this bylaw is at least they targeted the lot you're on, right? So that's a huge help.
Correct, and that,
So-
and unfortunately, you know, it would've been a lot easier if you could drive there, you know,
Yeah.
but there's a huge wetland, and our engineers took great pains to avoid wetlands. I don't think we need to go to the Conservation Commission, so, That's good.
We'll try to figure out how to get us up there if we're gonna do a site.
Yes.
I'll
Okay.
give you a piggyback. Pretty
Golf
sturdy.
cart would be
I don't know if you wanna
Alright.
reorder again to take G, 'cause
I do.
think that's why these ladies are here, and same with the members of the public.
Okay, G, and then I'm not leaving before we do the ARPA thing. Okay, so Streeter Road, thank you.
Take care.
So there is, did you get it posted?
I didn't have enough time to
Okay.
get posted. Do you have your copy with you?
I do.
Can make copies for them.
Phil, can I give copies of your analysis? It would be a public record anyway.
Yeah, be able to.
Absolutely.
Yes.
I just gotta find it.
Saw it when you were flipping through,
I
that's why I
stapled it
asked.
to the wrong thing, I think.
Right here.
Yeah.
Not that I'm trying to go through your belongings.
Yeah, no, that's fine. Oh, you know what, it doesn't have the maps.
I'll post it on the internet too, so we have all the maps too. I just got it
I
too
was
late
out
for
of,
the day.
color toner, so the maps are color coded, it didn't come out. Which he does have a fairly big discussion on, but you can get the point. So, for the public, and this is the item on this agenda, is the Streeter Road tax title lot. This is actually Streeter and Old Westminster, 2 lots we're talking about. Potential for low and moderate income or affordable housing. And we asked Bill Murray from Places Associates, who's here, to take a look at this land and see what, if anything, could be constructed on it, given the restrictions that it has. And this is hot off the press, he just finished this. It will also be on the 26th, I know now you've sat here all evening, but May 26th, there will be a full presentation of the options he sees. And you can read it along with the rest of us. None of them are, well, he'll have to go through it. But basically, the problem becomes, the lot on Old Westminster Road we're gonna acquire as well through tax taking that abuts it. But the Old Westminster lot is a very deep wetland, the whole length of the frontage except for one little corner. So actually, one of the problems is the same problem that this gentleman has, is that we would have frontage on a road, 350 feet of it, but the access is through the access, not, and it's supposed to be through the frontage under our bylaw. So that would also have to be either waived or accommodated in some way in most of the scenarios. However, we do have, that road is like 400, and the access strip that comes with it is wide enough for a road under our subdivision laws. So you could put in, well, we have a 500-foot dead end limit to our roads, right? So in theory, maybe with a small variance, you could put in the road and a cul-de-sac and a couple houses at the end.
Thank you.
So, anyway, he talks about a number of options here, and the options are, a single family, a duplex, which you have to have more frontage to do a duplex. He looked at a cluster develop, we have it's called what's it called? It's not cluster development. Open space residential development, in which a lot of land is set aside in exchange for being able to put the units closer. A senior residential development, which is more forgiving in terms of frontage. And then we also allow, because it's not in the aquifer zone, up to a 4-unit buildings. And so there's various combinations, they're all discussed there, they would all have problems, but they would all in theory be possible. One of which is you could also do a 40B, and you could override, a friendly 40B, where the town does the plan, and you could create probably 11 2-bedroom apartments or something like that, that would be for seniors or families in some kind of configuration, 2 buildings. But most of the land, there's about 8 acres of that that's actually developable, because it's bisected by a stream. He talks about all these issues. And the more units you get, the more burden you put on Streeter Road, which we know is in poor condition. So, I mean, there's kind of trade-offs. If we did that, did the more units, you could and you went to a developer, you could have them upgrade the road, at least from the end coming in from Westminster. It's one of the or carrots to be able to put more units in. So we are at the very beginning stages of this. We didn't even know, we thought it was pretty amazing that the land actually came to us. You know, that they allowed it to be foreclosed, and basically the Affordable Housing Committee put up the money to go to land court to try to foreclose these lots, and usually they're redeemed. So this was new to us, it's just come through, so we're trying to see what can be done. But we would certainly involve street or road people, because it's your neighborhood, right? And we know that there's walking paths and tremendous value that people wanna retain in terms of getting to the walking areas.
And the wildlife.
And the wildlife and everything, so we're aware of that, and it's, if you read this, which is great, then come back on the 26th and have your input,
Okay.
because we would be very interested, and we
Should I-
don't know what the answer is, it's an analysis, right?
So if it needed variances, you would be able to grant your own variances.
Variances go to the zoning boards of appeals.
The only way, so there's a couple of different things with a true variance has to go to the zoning board of appeals, and that's not us, right? And it has to meet certain criterias, some of which we have, like proving that accessing the lot from the frontage is extremely difficult due to the topography, which is that very large wetland. So we might be able to meet that burden, but if we did like a subdivision plan with a small cul-de-sac and that smaller development, we might be able to do it through the subdivision rules and regulations, which allows the planning board to waive like the cul-de-sac would have to be 25 feet longer, we could do that with subdivision, if they lay out a subdivision with it. But if it's a true 41B, then you have a lot more flexibility, then you can override, but we don't have plans to, the lot's limited, what we can do with it, and it's, you know, it's gotta be with, the people in the neighborhood have to be part of it. There's about 8 acres of it that's really developable out of the 35 or.
So there's 3 parcels.
There's 3 parcels, the
Okay.
big wetland piece that fronts on, I'm blanking on the road.
Old
The
Westminster.
Old Westminster Road,
Yeah.
I keep
Just
wanting to
ask
New
us, we
Westminster,
know.
Old Westminster Road, right around the corner.
Yep.
And then there's the strip, which is 50 feet, which is wide enough for even a minor road or a lane.
Completely saturated land,
Oh, is it wet?
extremely wet. From Old Westminster Road all the way in, that's wet. My
Well,
son lost his
done,
sneakers
this is
in
been,
there.
this is a,
He was 7, he's 30 now, so it was a while ago, but it's really wet.
this is a paper analysis, right?
Yes.
Based on mapped wetlands and
Yeah.
mapped.
Yeah.
And he says there are places where it may not be correct.
Just ask the moose.
But read what he has to say.
Yep.
Come in with information that's valuable to us. If you think there's one plan that's workable and another isn't, and you have one that appeals to you in that group, send us in that direction and tell us why. And if you really think that there's some major piece missing, because there's uncharted wetlands but he did look at, you can see what he's looked at, it's fairly comprehensive. There's a stream that bisects the middle of it, and it's a feeder stream so you can't do anything on 100 feet of either side. All of that is in there, right? And you can see what it boils down to.
If the parts that are unbuildable abut any of our properties, is there any chance that we could obtain them, do you think?
I think the more likely thing would be that they would either be a conservation restriction that goes with the development, or they would be deeded to like open space committee or something.
Okay.
Honestly, it's probably not the right thing to carve it up and add to everybody's backyard, because really, if it's not usable and it's wetland, you don't wanna own it, you wanna have it preserved, right? And people do enjoy the walking through it, the trails that are already established, and our idea would be not to close it off by selling it off to private people. I think generally, I mean, I can't speak for where this is going, but our general thinking. So, and also, I'm not sure even if we continued on with this, right now, because nobody done anything with affordable housing forever, the planning board was appointed, the affordable housing committee, to do that. And then we have the Habitat House, which maybe you've heard about, was our first initiative. But we may not, we would probably plan a separate committee either make the Affordable Housing Committee a separate committee, or else make a committee that just deals with this lot, that would include, you know, residents and,
Okay.
okay? Read it and please come back on the 25th. 26th, sorry, the 26th. And you can hear the whole presentation from Mr. Murray who's put it together, and you will have had the advantage of reading it. It'll also be posted on the website, so if you have friends that wanna read it,
Yeah.
tell them to go to the, how would they get to it? They don't get it through our documents, right? You're gonna post it?
No, it just goes through the Harvardstown website under boards and committees, planning board,
Yeah.
and I'll try to put it on the front page too,
Okay, great.
and I can put it out on social media too.
And if you find those sneakers, he's outgrown them, sorry.
We'll donate them.
They're not there anymore.
No.
My guess is they're long gone.
We're interested in what people on Streeter Road wanna have to say about it. So,
Well, just like anybody else, nobody wants change. So, you know, it's getting used to it.
it's getting used to, but you know, I think it's better where the town controls it and you do very limited, rather than the town could just sell it. I mean, that's what they did with the other houses on
Yeah.
Ragged Hill. They
That-
just put them out to bid and then the subdivision comes in and then whatever. This way
That-
you have input.
Yeah, that's ultimately I think the worst outcome for everybody, is that the property gets taken away from this process, from the Affordable Housing Committee, and just goes to the select board and the town administrator, because it'll most definitely be auctioned.
It's just,
or
it's
turned
all
over to the
wetlands,
state.
and I just wondered if anybody ever applied for a building permit and were denied to build on it in the past.
I don't know, village
Yeah.
record exists.
But, well, that's our homework.
But this is the paper research on it.
Yes.
But you need to actually go to the posting, cause it has the maps.
Yeah,
Yes.
the
And you'll see
beginnings.
he doesn't disagree with you, there are
Right.
huge swaths that are out
Yeah.
of it.
Mm-hmm.
Everything on the other side of the river, everything, there's only one spot that he thinks is buildable.
And it's getting access to that spot.
Right, when the access would be through the access road,
Through the right of way.
Where is that
through the right of
located?
way. It's in there.
It's on the other side of Rightos.
It
Well,
has
I
the
didn't
two
think it went
lots.
that far out, because I thought it ended behind me.
The old Westminster Road lot ends at your property line with me.
Yeah.
On the
That
other
for
side of
last map,
Rightos,
turn
there's a
this.
right of way
Yeah.
that accesses the 31.6 acre
Turn that
lot.
page
Right,
over
but
and
that's
it
not
shows.
included in this.
We had a member of the public ask if the map shows where the
No, that's why
I
I'm
thought
not
that
sure.
was
development
that.
would be going, but I don't think it does.
So
Oh,
Bill
this-
is saying something I can hear. Are you answering that question, Bill?
They're taking the trust by tax title?
Yes, it's between 32 and 34 Streeter Road where there's a footpath.
It's between, what did you say?
I think he said
32.
32?
32, where there's a footpath, he
Okay,
says.
yeah,
Okay.
okay.
Okay, alright, we have, there's nothing more I can tell you except that, what were we gonna do?
So they're taking it by the trust by
oh,
tax
again,
title?
I want to put this, does everybody agree with this, that we can add this to the agenda as an agenda item, have Bill Murray come and present his proposal, and everybody else on the committee should read it by 5/26. But this is not going to be a hearing on what we're gonna do.
no.
So it's just gonna, no advertising, just on the agenda.
I can't see it on here, but on the map, is it show where the any proposed development would go, or is it just showing wetlands?
No, it just shows the constraints,
Alright,
okay?
thank you.
Thank you, come back,
Okay.
okay, the 26th.
26.
Okay, so we've done that, so this brings us to F, which is, working backwards, but the ARPA funds, and I know you're on the ARPA committee. So I know you're redoing this application, but I put it together and I wanna see if we can do it this way. So did you get a chance to look at this?
I did, but I
Okay.
can also tell you that based upon the meeting from Monday, the application's gonna be completely different.
Okay.
And that the committee is gonna be deciding that at the next opera meeting that I believe is on the 25th.
Cause I'm not sure I wanna do this anymore. So,
Yeah, no,
if you wanna take it on, I just think that this is, their report, which I've attached, is a complete detail of every cost, of every, you know, this, of everything they need.
I think there's an opportunity to coordinate with Ryan on this, because I mentioned that this was something that was gonna be coming up on our agenda, when I met with him last, and he was excited at the idea of ARPA potentially paying for some of this.
Well, I don't want,
So,
you know, he's really got a plate full, I can't get him to even return my calls.
I just
Of which there are
showed up
several.
at his office.
You show up at his office.
Ambush.
Ambush approach, maybe I should do that.
Um,
I wanna just get a vote tonight if we can in this concept, right? And then if it needs to be recast,
it's gonna need to be recast.
when is the hearing? I think it's a long shot.
So the applications are gonna end up being due, I wanna say it's July 1st is what we decided at the last meeting. So they're gonna be due, it's either June or July 1st, it's been a long day. And then after that, there's gonna be a 2-week correction period.
I think it's
where-
July 1st, you said last night, right?
Yeah,
Cause June 1st is right around the corner.
July 1st, yeah,
Okay.
sorry, it's July 1st.
Cause that's the application deadline.
And so there's gonna be an application deadline, and then the ARPA committee is gonna review the applications, and it's gonna push back any of the ones that the committee deem to be incomplete, and then give people 2 weeks to fix those, and then it's gonna go through and start making recommendations.
When is if the deadline is July 1st, when are you gonna start taking these applications?
Well, at the next meeting, we're gonna talk about what the methodology is gonna be, because in this round, we are certainly going to run out of money, whereas with the last round, we had quite a bit more money than we did applications. So we just kinda went down the line, since we weren't gonna prejudice anybody by deciding about them later on. With this round, we're either gonna have to do some kind of ranked choice, or some kind of batch processing in order
okay.
to distribute it
And
fairly.
when is that meeting?
We're gonna figure out that process on the 25th of this month.
May 25th,
Day before our next meeting.
the day before our next meeting. Okay, well, I'm not gonna be at that meeting, at the 25th, but you
Yeah,
can
it-
bring whatever you want. I would love to have somebody else take this over.
Because we'll ultimately just need to roll that forward to the next application.
So, and my suggestion to you is if you put another application in, if there's anybody that could possibly do a fill-in-the-blank form, so you didn't have to print it out and
Yeah, the form, there was a lot of feedback on the form, that we had, so, it's gonna be simplified quite a bit. With
Oh.
that said, the best application that came in was the one that came in for a Habitat for Affordable Housing. It was the only one where they went through and thoroughly completed it, and your version on the old form is, on that same level, but it's gonna be a different form when the decision's actually
Alright,
made.
well, I'll tell you what, when you get the new form done, can you keep me in mind
Absolutely.
and send me a note where I might find it? And then I will take a look at it, and if it's gonna take me more than 3 hours to do, I'm not gonna do it.
Oh, it won't.
Because, you know,
If
I think it's a
anything,
long shot, but.
it's gonna be a much simpler form.
And and I have to be able to attach this, because I do not wanna write what every backhoe's gonna cost to sink the wells.
Yeah.
So,
And
it has to have a place to attach.
You will be able to attach that. Where there were criticism were about some of the ways we had asked questions about community impact. People found that hard to understand and hard to answer. So if
Yeah, I
anything,
scratched my head for a good 40 minutes over that.
Yeah,
Well, it's
so-
like, okay, we did 25 apartments, and the average old guy lives there 5 years, and the apartments don't, this is how I think.
yeah, it's gonna be a lot less time. I'm sorry you had to go through that form as it was.
Just telling you. All right, so what I'm looking for from the board here, members, is, what we're talking about is, it was suggested that since the Lot 57 senior housing ideas come to a complete stop because of the lead in the groundwater, and the first step in getting rid of the lead in the groundwater was proposed, 6 months ago, cost $50,000 to do the study about how far the plume is gone and so forth.
Madam Chair,
The idea was that maybe ARPA would fund this work.
I also think the select board might have put a warrant item on for it too.
For this? For this meeting?
Yeah,
Yeah.
Really?
I believe so.
Really?
I believe so.
Okay, well, well, we'll pass over this till there's a new form and we find out what the select board have done, okay? Anybody object? Cause he won't apply if the article passes, that'd be fantastic.
You know,
It affects what we're gonna do actually with the streeter lots too, right? Okay, alright. So we'll just pass over that, remind me though to put it on for the 26th. Not the 26th, but check out, see if it's on the warrant and report to me, okay?
Okay.
Cause I haven't read the other warrant. Okay, so quick report from new business. I was just gonna be, well, Christopher was there. The all board meeting, which went on last night, it was very, very good, and that you learned how many hours and hours of volunteer time are contributed to really good things in this town, so you left feeling good about it. The select board said high priority is going to be solving the building inspector, and they're going to offer, open a position, advertise a position to actually create an in-house building inspector, which would be good. The various committees wanted to, the senior committee, the Katie Young, the Lions, everybody wants to spread the word that the Memorial Day parade that begins at 11 and includes the unveiling of the Vietnamese memorial and the restoration of the other memorials. It's a big day. Please come and bring your friends, and you can get free ice cream here and free hot dogs from the Lions Club food trailer. And they're gonna have bands, and it's gonna be a great event. I don't think, I had one thing not recently anticipated by the chair, we put that there, which is MRPC has to have a member from every town on its board. And I'm that member at the moment, but I'm not looking to do it next year. So we can think about it. Right now, their monthly meeting is a direct conflict with ours, but you still need to read the minutes, cause that's where all the grant applications and all the opportunities are listed. So it's something to think about, members out there, if you wanna do that. All business.
Before we move off of matters not reasonably anticipated by a chair.
Yep.
EDC is still working on the town center overlay.
Okay.
And it's fallen a couple months behind, and there might be an opportunity there for the planning board to help it along.
Okay.
I'm not sure what that means, but I think we need to reach out to the EDC and talk to Ryan and see if there's a way we can both, we could all get involved on it. It's currently held up at survey design, and the reason there just keeps being an issue with that is the last couple EDC meetings have had to be canceled either because of lack of quorum or some other scheduling issue.
What is survey design?
Specifically a survey for public feedback.
Oh,
Not a
oh,
land
okay,
survey.
okay.
Feedback survey. And I'd mentioned it at the all boards meeting. These, the town center overlay and what we're doing with the agricultural accessory bylaw, or whatever form it takes, are probably two of the kind of quietest but yet most strategically important things that are going on in town right now.
I agree.
And I think we need to be a little more involved with what's going on with the town center.
What,
Especially-
how would, I mean, you're gonna be the chair soon, but you wanna do something in May? I'm happy to invite him for the 26th.
I'll catch up with Whitney and I'll meet with her and figure out what she wants to do, because it's her project that she's running because
This
of
is
the way
Jennifer,
it's structured.
is the MRPC?
Yeah, Jennifer's the consultant that's working on it, who's working on it with Whitney. But the goal is that it also would be done for the fall meeting, which is turning into zoning palooza.
I mean, we could try to do a joint meeting where they could come here. It's all gotta go through the planning board anyway, though, at some point, right? So.
Yeah, the EDC can't put something on the warrant, they can't put zoning on the warrant, it has to go through us for a public hearing.
Right.
Only.
So we do need to come up to speed on it when you're ready. It just seemed like it was like an incubator going on there, and so
Yeah,
be ready for
it's
us to.
it's been slow simmering, but I wanna make sure that got into everybody's consciousness.
Okay, well, will you let me
in the
know
sense of
if you
being-
want something the 26th, and then after that, it's kinda your ballgame. so. But I'd be happy to do something the 26th. You know, I had not read, I guess I had read it way back when, cause when I got to be chair, I read the whole book at one point, but that the town center was the cell tower, you know, that was an allowed use there. So also, when they do this town center overlay, it's gonna be in addition to already allowed uses. I mean, we gotta think about that. Or are you trying to actually change the uses where some uses presently allowed wouldn't be allowed?
That has not been decided yet.
Okay.
It's still in the information gathering phase, but it's been stuck in the information gathering phase for a year and a half, so.
Okay,
Mostly because of COVID.
yeah, well, you know, it's been hard work to do the little we've been able to do, so I'm not criticizing other committees, it's that it has been the way it is. Alright, but let them know, if they wanna set aside time on the 25th, I'll give them some time.
Yeah.
26th.
6.
Okay, so old business, I just wanted to clean up some things. The Beal, you know, the people that applied with a special permit and they actually paid for the special permit and so on, I didn't want it to like put us in a situation where we didn't act on it and it, you know, became a default situation or something. So I did write a letter, did that letter ever get, it got out?
They're moving forward with the
And I
ZBA.
think the board got it too, didn't I? Said anybody object, write back to me or something. Okay, so and as a result, they actually withdrew their application.
Yeah.
They applied for the ZBA.
Yeah.
And they got their money back.
Well,
Or they
got
applied it to the
transferred
ZBA, they rolled it over
Yeah.
for their findings. So just so you know, that isn't a loose end. So annual town meeting, presentations, Francois, who's still there, is gonna do best, you're gonna be back, right? Francois, he's like, okay, gotta probably keep it pretty short, and that's a hard one to keep short, but I would love to have you do it. I can do the accessory dwelling, and I can, Ryan wants me to say something about why the rate of development was disallowed by the AG. And then there's also, the CPA article that I wanna be able to say the planning board supports because of the Affordable Housing Committee. It will be a lot less than 25,000, it'll be between 5 and 10,
Wow.
I think.
Yeah,
Because
there
we
was
had-
also ARPA money approved, but I believe the agreement on that is the ARPA money kicks in if the warrant doesn't.
Right,
pass.
I actually think it should be CPC money, there are very few CPC funds spent on more, you know, on actual building over the years, and the money's there to do it. And I think it should come, I just think it needs to be supported by the planning board. So, I don't know whether we need to vote to support that article for me to say the planning board supports it, but maybe we should. You wanna make a motion that the planning board
Well-
supports the CPC article for,
It won't say it on the warrant though.
it won't, so
Well,
I can just say that, the planning board supports it as the chair, we are the Affordable Housing Committee.
We
I think I
vote
can
on-
do that.
We can vote on it if you just wanna be comfortable.
Alright, let's vote on it, but I can't give you the number, so that's the problem with voting on it, except to say,
When's the town meeting scheduled?
we could, you know, we could do this on the 20,
We've done the
Yeah.
transfer.
we'll do it on the 26th, I'll have a firm number. Remind me, can you remind me?
Yeah.
Okay to do that. And then you've just given me a sort of a report on the agricultural advisor, oh no, that's,
There's more on that.
okay, well, the floor is yours.
Alright, so on the agricultural advisory, we are making progress. We went through a information discovery phase, and gathered a bunch of information about surrounding communities, some information about the agricultural uses that are going on in Hubbardston. The committee has picked up 3 representatives on it that all represent agricultural interests. In addition to how it was originally structured, we actually ended up with 1 additional from the select board than was originally set up with the motion. There's been some interesting stuff that we've gone through and we've kind of figured out. One of them being is that we don't really have any large commercial farm interests left in Hubbardston, and to the extent that we do, there's very few. The overwhelming majority of people in Hubbardston that own some of the larger farm properties are either working full-time or retired, but that's in addition to operating the farm, so they have other sources of income. So when you look at how just a regular agricultural accessory bylaw works, it's usually set off a 50% number of whatever the ordinary agricultural income is. And that potentially creates an issue if we're trying to do anything meaningful or give any kind of meaningful support where we're incentivizing people to keep these properties as farms.
Yep.
Because if you're not making money off of it, you're really incentivized to carve it up and develop it. So one of the recommendations that came from the group was that we need to look at alternative ways of doing it in addition to doing as a straight agricultural accessory bylaw. So all of the guts still essentially stay the same. So we've been working on that over the last meetings, like the list of uses. We have a couple questions about who should be making decisions and stratification of the uses, and I'll come back to that. But we've been working on all that kind of stuff while we still have a couple bigger issues. And the bigger issue is we looked at essentially 3 ways to possibly handle this through zoning. The first way being just do a regular agricultural accessory bylaw that just says, okay, well, these uses are okay up to 50% by right, these by special permit, these by site plan review, so on and so forth.
50% of area?
No, 50% of income.
Income, okay, alright.
Yeah, and that's how Bolton did it.
Yeah.
And there was also, I believe it still exists, there's a pending bill at a state level to make a whole bunch of uses by right for up to 25%. But once again, that doesn't do anything meaningful in the town.
Yeah.
And I don't think it moves the needle on saving any of the farm properties. So the next thing was that we could look at doing a more comprehensive, or rather recommending a more comprehensive set of alterations to the zoning in the residential agricultural district.
Okay.
And after kicking around at the meeting, we decided that that was gonna be, well, very challenging. And that it could also be challenging at the town meeting, and it will also be challenging just in terms of messaging and explaining to the public. So the third option that came up was that we could do something that would essentially be a rural opportunity overlay, where it would take those uses that are normal to the agricultural accessory bylaws or normal to ecotourism and permit them in the overlay to the extent the property is larger than 5 acres, and that it's true to the character and nature of the land, stuff like that. We haven't established that criteria yet. That's on for a future meeting. And that's the way we're currently leaning. There's some challenges with that we're trying to figure out, and that's one of the requests for the planning board. The first one is well, nobody's done that before that we've been able to find. I raised it as a question to MRPC, and essentially the response I got back was, well, nobody's done that before, but it seems like a good idea.
A lot of overlays.
Let us know how it works out. So, looking at it a little bit deeper myself, I think we need to be a little careful with it, because there are some provisions in state law that say that you can't establish like a farming district. So we need to be careful to make it so that we're not putting any restrictions on any of the farming activities. And arguably there's some stuff in our zoning that we've gone through and looked at as a committee, and that we can't really do anyways. Like, it doesn't appear to the committee that under chapter 40 you can actually require a special permit for a greenhouse, and there's some other stuff like that are probably unreasonable restrictions on farming that are already in our zoning. So we would try to address some of that to the extent that we could, but it does create an issue where if we even touch any of those issues, it could make it something that gets thrown out. So there's gonna be some complex issues we gotta work through with that. So where we need to get a little bit of guidance from the planning board, and where we could use additional help, is 2 big questions are coming up. The first one is how are we going to I guess the first one being is whether or not we can actually do that. We're still working on that. It might be worth getting an opinion from council on whether it makes sense to do that kind of overlay. I think we need to refine the question more before we get to the ask council.
Okay.
But definitely, the good part is we can build all the guts and we can have the whole thing put together, but it's the body that we put it in that we need council to opine on, cause we could just change it to an agricultural accessory by law
Okay,
and keep most of it and keep all the work that we've done along the way. So, there's that underlying question we're gonna have to answer. The next one is, how on uses that require some form of approval, and we haven't yet discussed and debated what we want for different types of approval. What do we as a planning board think makes sense, and for those different avenues of getting things approved? So say, and I'm not arguing the point for this particular use, but say somebody wants to have like special events, but special events in the forms of like a small craft fair or something like that. That's likely something by right. Special events in the form of like a large wedding with reception, like that's something that's gonna require some level of approval if you're talking about lots of people. So there's a question on who do we want to do that approval. The pushback we're getting from the farm voices on the committee is that just pushing everything towards special permit doesn't make sense with how we have our special permits set up, because it will be prohibitively expensive and difficult for them, and that they really need some kind of intermediate level of review for those intermediate things. So the advisory committee could use some suggestions on how the planning board and the town would like to see some of those go, whether it wants all of those decisions to go to the planning board in some shape or form, and whether it happens as a special permit or site plan review, or whether those go to a building commissioner, or whether or not they go to the actual agricultural commission. We need a little bit of an idea of what we can actually do from a legal standpoint.
what is it, is the agricultural commission a statutory commission?
So they apparently have some authority over farm complaints. I haven't had a chance to research it myself yet.
Cause you might see what Mass General Law gives them in the way of powers.
Yeah, I haven't had a chance to go through and look at the MGLs on it, but that's something that
I mean,
they
maybe
really do.
the state generally doesn't answer our questions, but now and then.
Yeah.
I see their point, I mean, if you're gonna do, 5 weddings a year for 200 people, you can't, it's a special permit to do that, doesn't make a lot of sense to me.
Yeah, well, and
If it's an outdoor, I mean, if it's a tented event with,
and all weddings aren't equal. Like 6 people standing in front of a grapevine, like that shouldn't be coming to the planning board.
I mean, there's gotta be, I understand the situation. Speaking of which, I don't know, is that it, is that your report?
There was another one that we needed a little bit more of an
Go ahead.
it got late, that's washed out of my head. No, the other one is how some of those are going to be stratified. Whether there's anything that the planning board feels strongly needs to end up in a special permit.
Okay.
And
Well.
I guess in terms of a time frame to knowing, everybody taking some time to think about that, and maybe we talk about it briefly at the next meeting, assuming there's time.
Okay, can you put that on for the agenda too? I just, in unanticipated matters, I forgot. I did get a call from, I can't remember her name, town council, one of the town councils. Nicole Constanza. The AG is looking at our marijuana fix, Band-Aid bylaw that got passed. And the issue they're having is a 5 acre for any marijuana establishment. Well, what about a shop? This guy thinks it's too big for a shop. And what I said to Nicole is, well, we were kind of thinking in terms of what we have in town, which is Bowie, who was here, who's growing it on the property and then going to sell it on the property. And weren't really thinking in terms of having the old, belly up fast food place that's been converted like sanctuary, cause we're not really that kind of town. We don't have like sewers but anyway, she said, well then does your commercial district actually have 5 acre parcels available? So I sent her the map with the parcels and I said, most of the buildings in our commercial area are houses, and they require 2 acres and 200 feet of frontage, and you're talking about putting a business in between. But I think it is really 50-50 that bylaw is gonna get kicked back to us and have to go back with a special determination on how much for a shop, because they may hold that 500. She said, well, still, even if you had a shop and a parking lot and a septic system and it still wouldn't really take 5 acres. So she was kind of arguing for us. She says, well, the fact that your basic house needs 2 acres there, so I don't know how it's gonna come out, but the AG is going to rule on it, and they may bounce it back to us. So I wanted to let you know.
Well, I think a lot of that stuff we should be able to address when we do for a revision, and that we should also put on the fall meeting.
Yes, they might do other revisions as well as that.
I have it almost done.
Well, think about that
I've had it almost
issue.
done for a while. It just it got taken over by the agricultural stuff.
Well, they said
But-
even if they pass it, it's gonna be passed with a caution.
Yeah.
So it probably
It's-
is something that should be fixed. So if you're taking that on anyway, can you
Yeah.
take that on? If
It's-
it's a standalone shop, and then it's with or without delivery, because that's an issue. If we're gonna impose a minimum, what would it be?
Yeah, it's not unreasonable criticism.
It's not.
Because really where we were coming from with the 5 acre was more of a concern of
Growing, we were really thinking
yeah,
about growing. So.
I don't think a loophole is the appropriate thing to call it. The issue that we found with how you'd have a 2 acre lot in a residential neighborhood and permit a grow in it under the special permit rules that
Right,
we had. So
right.
that's really what ultimately the issue was.
Right, so it may be, if you wanna pick up that, if we're gonna fix it anyway, we're probably gonna have to fix it. We're gonna get at least a caution and maybe have
Yeah.
it thrown out, so by the
The-
fall, think about it.
The issue that I'm having with fixing that, and I don't know if you remember what it was off the top of your head, it was in one of the meetings a few months ago. We spent about 15-20 minutes at the end of the meeting, and we ran down what was important to everybody and all the sections that need to be changed. I'm trying to find that meeting so I can rewatch it to make sure I got everything, and I can't for the life of me figure it out from the minutes.
I haven't had a chance to go back and rewatch it yet either.
Hey, I don't remember, like
Yeah.
Mallory says, what would you like to put on unanticipated business? And I said, it could be anything. Don't ask me. But
Well,
if I have-
I'll
if I
work
have
on that with
notes-
Mallory,
Yeah.
and we'll figure it out, and we'll
figure
get
it out.
that wrapped. What is the timeline that we need to have that on the fall meeting? Because we have to have that on the fall meeting.
I don't know when the fall meeting is, like probably
It's
nobody
usually
else does either.
October.
October,
Yeah.
yeah.
So when do we
Usually,
have to have that wrapped up by?
Probably early September, right?
So if we make a goal of just getting that wrapped up in the summer, we'll be in good shape.
Right, and you need a hearing and all the rest of it, so.
It needs to be advertised for 2 weeks.
I'm hats off to you, but for taking that on, because I really did wanna tell you about this call, and sort of the sinking feeling that, yeah, wow. Okay, anyway, administrative matters, we got a new solar report from 147, which I was really glad to see.
Just so that's it.
Okay, so we still are missing some?
3.
You wanna report on the 25th and make one more call to
Yeah.
them and say, hey guys, right? But 147 Williamsville, this is the one we added the best units to.
Francois is trying to hop in. I
Go
think.
ahead.
Quick question, on that, as I was reading the bylaw, can you hear me?
Yep.
Okay. As I was reading the bylaw, and it is my understanding that, the certificate to generate, obviously was dependent on fulfilling all the requirements that were in the original application. However, subsequently, a review could be theoretically done, if, with a certificate to generate, if one of these, establishments of the solar, fields does not comply with a section of the bylaw. I think and I'm kind of wondering, and this is just an open question to other board members, yourselves obviously included, as to whether or not we should incorporate into the wording at some point in time in the future that not providing these reports basically puts them in a bad standing and therefore potentially subject to a review as to the certificate of to generate.
Well, I'm working on the zoning bylaw, for, the solar bylaw revisions, so I'll put it as a note to look at that again. I like the idea.
One thing that jumped out
I know
at
that
me,
we put some really strong wording on the battery energy storage system, and I think it's very explicit there.
Yes, it is better, we could carry it over.
For us to review this year.
You're right.
And I'd like to see if we can not only carry it over, but then when we are requesting or sending these reminders, that the reminders be worded in such a way that they are reminded that this is a requirement and it is potentially jeopardizing their certificate to generate if they do not provide that information.
Okay, I know there were some solar fields in town that predated the existing
Yeah.
certificate too, but I think that's a good idea, and I'm working on that. MRPC is supposed to be helping me, and they're saying later in the summer, but I will put it in my notes, Francois, so that's good. So Williamsville, which has now the best units, generated 1,293,814 kilowatt hours in 2021. So I don't know how many houses that translates to, but that's a big chunk of energy.
a lot.
Yeah, so there's that, and then I just wanted to say, for Christopher, I know I've sent it to him, there's an the Mass Housing Partnership, All Things Affordable Housing training on the 7th and 8th. And if anybody else wanted to do it, they could, 7th and 8th of June. You can go remotely to both sessions. One is remote, and you can go, and it's at Devon's. So one is remote, and you can go to the actual session at Devon's, costs you $50, or you can do both remote. But when I did it, the board paid for it, so just let us know and we'll reimburse you if you go and there's a cost. And you're gonna plan to go, right?
Yeah.
So that's good, and then the whole reappointment situation, which Erica's willing to serve again, so do you wanna go ahead and put, the only requirement is 2-week notice on the planning board of the available position opening up, cause every year it's a reappointment. So she could take that, and Mallory could take that, put that notice up with a deadline of the 16th of, am I getting it right now, 6/16, your first meeting, right? You would reapply, and then if anybody else reapplied, we'd have to consider them. But then we would vote at that meeting with you as chair, which isn't saying we wouldn't consider anybody else, but, all things considered. And then we send it to the select board and then they appoint. And in the meantime, she can continue to serve anyway until the new appointment comes through, even if it's her or somebody else. But I think we should do that because I think it creates the least possibility of having that chair change hands while there's a special permit pending, cause we got 2 special permits coming. So do you agree with that? Can
Yeah, I think
have
that
her-
makes sense,
Okay.
to have the safety, margin, just so we have people available to vote for the special
Right,
permits.
and
We don't
right,
wanna do
and if,
anything,
you could also even delay the appointment a little bit if you had, if you had one more hearing date that we had to get beyond and it did change. But I think it's mostly a matter of just buttoning it up so it doesn't become a problem. So can you look how we've advertised it in the past? And put it there, so we have 2 weeks, and say, if you're interested, submit your application to the planning board by the
I
day
think the town
before.
clerk usually does it, so I'll talk with Lori about it.
Okay, can you do that for
Yeah.
us? Okay, I just don't wanna create a problem for us. And that's it, so our final planning board meeting of the fiscal year is 5/26. Annual town meeting is the 7th of June, election is the 11th of June, and then the reorganizational meeting is June 16th. Right, we're all
You
set?
got it.
Okay,
Oh,
Do we have a full complement of the nomination papers?
the nomination papers, John, did he get us in, do you know?
John got in.
Anybody else?
No.
It's uncontested.
Uncontested. Everyone's uncontested, across the board.
Okay, so motion to adjourn unless there's anything else. Anything else? No public members here? Anybody still hanging in there?
Nope.
Okay.
Motion to adjourn,
Motion to adjourn?
Second.
Second? All in favor, lived all aye.
Monroe, aye.
Tiger, aye.
Okay, we stand adjourned. We'll see you May 26th. Thanks, everybody.